Hi, this is Douglas Robinson. In this video, we're going to be reviewing an update to our Cherwell blueprint merge map. In this update, we're adding the ability to not only sort blueprints based on their name, which is the default method that we would sort them by when we were scanning blueprints in for a merge, we've now added the option to sort blueprints by the date they were modified in ascending order. The reason this is going to become helpful for the users that are using our Cherwell blueprint merge app is that not every user names their blueprints in the same way. They don't all have the same naming convention with their files. Now, me personally, when I create blueprints, I use a very standardized naming convention, and it always starts out with the date for the blueprint, the date and time that the blueprint was created, or actually the date and time that the blueprint was first saved. So when I go to save a blueprint, I record out what the date and time is at the time that I'm writing it. That way, when I go to publish my blueprints or when I go to migrate them to another environment, they all line up perfectly in my Windows Explorer based on the dates that they were created, just from me sorting based on the names. So I find this very useful. I'll type out the date and time in this format, and you'll notice today's date is July 10th, 2018, so we have 2018-0710 underscore and then the time, so it's 4:44 p.m. right now for me. If you're in a time zone and you're working with other Cherwell admins in different time zones, this could become a problem for you, and you might have to find something else that works. But for me, this works perfectly, and I'm able to use this convention very well. And I have realized that I kind of assume that everyone else is just kind of working on the same naming convention. So when we wrote this blueprint merge application or tool, what happened is, there's other people that aren't using naming conventions like these that may not sort correctly when we read their blueprints in. And if you have 200, 300, 400 blueprints, you're not going to be happy if you have to manually reorder those items. That makes a ton of sense. So what we've done is we've added the ability to sort these blueprints based on the last modified date time instead. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to do a quick recap of how the tool actually works, and we're going to create a couple of blueprints with a couple of changes, and we'll demo how it merges those items together, and then also we'll demo how we can change whether it's scanning those items in based on their name or if it's scanning them in based on when they were modified. And we're going to include a special change that's different in each blueprint so we can demonstrate what the difference is going to be if we scanned one way versus the other to establish the correct order. Alright, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a blueprint. I'm going to create a new blueprint, and in this blueprint I'm going to add our customer business object. Our customer and all of its relationships, forms, grids, and form arrangements. And this is going to be our first blueprint. So if we look in blueprint changes, the notable changes for our first blueprint are going to be everything for customer. And in addition to that, I said I was going to do something special. So we're going to add a big number to our incident form so that if blueprint 1 is published, then the number 1 is going to show up on our incident form. So I'm going to add a label to our incident form. I'm going to type out the number 1, and I'm going to give it a custom font so that I can change the size of this number 1. We're going to make this size 20 font. It'll be bold, and we are going to make it red. And I'm also going to give it a visibility control so that it's not true, so that if I end up using incident management on my system, and this is just a dev environment, it doesn't belong to anyone but us, so we can do whatever we want with it. But I'm going to add a condition on here so that it doesn't actually show up. So if I end up using it, I don't have to see it until I remove it later. Okay, so we have our number 1 on this blueprint. And with customer added and the incident form added, what we're going to do is we're going to find our folder full of blueprints, which I think was on my desktop. I might have the wrong folder pulled up here. Alright, so we're going to pull up our blueprints folder and we're going to add a new blueprint. So our blueprint here is going to be today's date, which is 2018 0710 underscore 1649 because it's now 449. And then we're going to title this one. I always put a title after the date. I have caps lock on. Customer and incident form. So that's what's included in my blueprint. That's what I'm going to title it. If I come back to it, I know that's what's being changed. So that's blueprint 1. I'm going to go ahead and publish this because I did make a change to my incident form. I'm not going to scan it. Alright, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a second blueprint. In this blueprint, I'm going to add knowledge article. So we're going to add knowledge and all of its information, and we're going to make a second change to our incident form. Instead of the number 1, we're going to have the number 2. And here we're going to save it again. This one is 2018-0710, 1650, knowledge and incident form. We'll go ahead and publish that. That one's been published. And then finally, we'll have one more business object to add in one more blueprint. So this time we're going to add change. Change is a pretty hefty set of business objects and definitions. And then we're going to change our number on our incident form to 3. And I apologize if this part's kind of dry, but it leads up to a very important point that we're going to be making later on. Uh-oh. So the time is still, 1650. It's still 4:50 p.m. So I'm going to name this something different. I might even name this 1651. I normally don't fly through blueprints this quickly. So this one is change management and incident. Alright, it's 4:51 now. I didn't lie about the time. That way, when we sort by name, our blueprints will actually show up in the correct order. Alright, so now that we have our 3 blueprints, I'm going to open up our map and we're going to test it out. So here we have the blueprint merge exe. When you get it, I might say blueprint merge by DefEdit software. The name tends to change slightly depending on when you're actually downloading it. Just a hint there. I do have a bad habit of renaming exes. Anyways, so we have our blueprint merge by DefEdit software LLC, and we're going to browse for the list of blueprints that we're going to import. We do this by selecting a directory. So you're going to pick a folder for your blueprints that you're going to merge. This is important because no one wants to hand pick 450 different blueprints that they need to import. The expectation here is that you're going to separate your blueprints into a separate folder, and then once you've done that, you're going to end up importing them into this tool from there. So here we have our blueprints folder. We're going to select that, and that blueprints folder has our 3 different blueprints in it right here, the blueprints and the rollbacks. Then we're going to click scan. And you'll notice on our form here we have just the 3 BP files and not the rollbacks. So the reason for that is we've designed this not to include rollbacks. It's a perfectly reasonable thing for you to have your rollbacks in the same folder as your blueprints. We get that. We're not going to ask you to move them out. We're just going to ignore the blueprints when we're scanning them in here. So you'll notice everything showed up in the right order. We've got 1649, 1650, 1651. The customer and incident, knowledge and incident, and change management and incident form blueprints. That's great. Now, the very next thing that we're going to do is we're going to select where we're going to output our blueprints, and then we're going to merge them into a single output file. The other thing we can do, which we'll get into after that, is we can instead scan by the last mod date time, or last modified date and time that the blueprints were created in. And that instead would actually scan them based on this value instead of the blueprint name. And we'll get into that one a little bit later. So here we have a path for a blueprint merge output, and that is going to be on our desktop, and I'm going to put it under blueprints and a new folder for blueprint merge results. That way our merged results don't show up in this list. I'm going to title this Merged Blueprints. I'm just going to prefix that with the date, 2018-0710, 1654. I just realized the time zone is actually incorrect on my server here. This is 4:54, but it's in a different time zone. It's actually 6:54 Central Time. This server's set to Pacific Time. I just looked at that and I thought, 4:54? I work somewhere else until 5. It can't possibly be 4:54. So it's 4:54 Pacific Time. It's really 6:54 Central Time, for those of you who count. And you may notice I didn't actually put a .bp at the end of this. I just left it blank. We haven't configured the save as type to show up with anything here. You can just type in the name of your blueprint, and once you've done that, it's going to automatically append .bp to the end of it if you haven't typed that part out. The next thing that we have to do is click on Merge Blueprints, and then that's it. It's going to process each of the blueprint files, and then it gives you a pop-up letting you know that the blueprint merge has been completed. I keep getting tongue-tied on that one. You should be able to publish your merged blueprint now. So what this has done is it's gone and it's output the merged blueprint file to your blueprint merge results folder that I created here, to the file path that I specified here, and now I can open up this file in Cherwell. Now the big question that I have for you is, what number is going to show up on our incident form, because we changed it 3 different times. Now when this application processes the same definition, for instance the incident form definition, on subsequent blueprints, it's going to use the most recently updated one, and that's why the order here is going to matter. So we scanned these in based on their name, and their names are actually written out based on their date and time values, so they'll show up based on the order that I created them in, which is perfect. So if your blueprint naming convention is like this would have worked from day one. This is exactly how this is intended to function, and when you look at your incident form after this, you'll notice that we have a big fat 3 on our incident form. It's great. Now, if you want to sort based on last modified date time, you can do that as well by going into the options and selecting Scan by Last Mod Ascending. Before I get into that, I just want to point out, here's everything that's included in our merged blueprint. So we have change request, everything that's included on change. We have customer and everything that's included there. And we have knowledge article. So our blueprint merge app has successfully merged our 3 blueprints together. So it's added everything that was in each blueprint, and it also processed an update correctly because it recognized which of the 3 blueprints to use for the incident form based on how they were sorted. So it took the most recently updated definition there and it used that when it processed the exported merged blueprint. Perfect. Now I'm going to assume that I've named my blueprints according to some other naming convention, and I can't get them to sort correctly in this list. So let's say instead of me typing out that these were 1650, 1651, 1649, I'm gonna change this name to 1699, which isn't even really a time. But when I do that and I close this app and I try to open up again and I scan them in, either I'm gonna pick this and they're gonna scan incorrectly. You'll notice number 2, 1699, is at the bottom of the list. Actually, I'm just going to name those with a 1, 2, and 3 so that my point doesn't get lost here. There we go. So we'll clear this out. We'll scan it again. So the problem that we're going to run into here is that we have blueprint number 1, number 2, and number 3, and they're not ordered correctly because whatever text is behind them doesn't sort properly. Now, any human can go in here and see exactly what they need to work on when they're publishing their blueprints, but the system can't. The system doesn't know based on just the file name which items need to be published in which order. You could probably set up a pattern, but that requires some additional effort. Now what we've done here is we've made it so if you modify or if you sort these by last modified date time, then you can actually order them in the correct sorting order. So you'll notice here that blueprint number 1 was modified first at 449, blueprint number 2 was modified second at 450, and blueprint number 3 was modified at 451. So if we clear these out of here, and we click this little minus icon, which is supposed to be a delete, we're going to go into the options screen. We're going to check scan by last mod ascending. Once we've done that, you notice this is checked now. We can go and click scan blueprints again to scan this blueprint folder. And we have blueprint number 1, 2, and 3 ordered in the correct order now because of the sorting based on their last modified date time. Now, since we've been able to do that, we can now click on our browse for our export for our merged blueprint file, and we can click merge blueprints again. Now that this has been exported, we can open up our merged blueprint file in Cherwell, and we can view our changes. So you'll notice here we have our change request, our customer, our incident, and knowledge article are all still in our blueprint changes. And when we look at our incident form, the number 3 is still the last change that was processed for incident, even though if we sorted based on the blueprint name now, they show up in the wrong order. So if we had been sorting on blueprint name, and I'll show you what happens if we do that, and we open this up in Cherwell, it would have shown a 2 because our naming convention was wrong. So if we uncheck scan by last mod ascending, now we have 1, 3, 2. If we click merge blueprints again, we open up our blueprint here, we have the same blueprint changes, but when we look at the incident form, what happens is we have a 2. So this is just another option we added. It's kind of a minor feature update, which is why when we post this out there, the title of the YouTube video is going to be, this is our Blueprint Merge app version 1.1. It's not quite a 2.0 update, but it is enough that we wanted to put out a video explaining, hey, we've updated this tool, here's how you use it, here's what's different. And if you have any questions about it, you can feel free to ask in the comment section below, or you can reach out to us on our website, which is defeditsoftware.com. Thanks for watching our video, and subscribe if you want to see more.